So this is going to be the box that houses the power supply. Well, seem to have a visitor here. Anyway, this is a Harbor Freight stainless steel toolbox. And what I did here was I wanted to mount this guy inside along with all these wires and some other stuff, but it just won't fit. It's just not enough room. So what I plan on doing with this box is on this end, I took the hinge off. There's two little pins that come out and you can take the hinge off. And on this side I have the air supply and the power supply coming in, and I have a fan in the back. I made a cover for it. It's a box fan for any electronics. 12 volt. I got a 12 volt one. So what I plan on doing was I got this plate that I was going to mount down here. Then on top of that, it's going to be the power supply. It's going to bolt to that plate. Then on the side here, I have this guy I made up. It was out of a scrap piece of Delrin. So I have a cutout for the power switch. Uses a computer cord, on off, and it's going to mount in there, actually from the outside. And then this goes to the outside. This is on the inside. These two push connectors. Now this piece I made, you call it a manifold. Only holds two, but it's still a manifold. But it was actually a piece of round stock, and the curvature where the NPT thread is just happened to work out to where the two holes intersect each other, and then the hole in the back comes through. The hole in the back comes through into here. Then these two intersect each other. And this curvature on this piece here, this was a piece of round stock, and I just cut it on a bandsaw. Trimmed it up a little bit on a mill. Kind of squared up the edges a little bit. Drilled a couple holes. Mounted it to this plate. Now this plate is going to mount inside of here. On this end, it gets bolted in. And this nipple that comes through here, we're going to attach this to it for the air coming in. and then it gets into this manifold, and one of these ports is the air that's going to operate the brake, and the other one is going to go into this valve, and it's going to give me a couple of pounds of pressure to put inside this box to cool it through this line, through this blue air line. It's just passing some air through there because there's a heat sink in there for the electronics, and I just wanted to get some air moving through there. It doesn't have to be much, you know, just a little air movement, like a fan. But there's really no place to put a fan, so it was easier just to plug in a line and just have a little air movement through there using compressed air. So this was this box. The thickness on the stainless steel isn't much. It's like 15 or 20 thousandths. And like I said, I got it from Harbor Freight. So this is going to mount in there. And the switch. Now, this is going to mount in there also. This is a little panel I made out of some scrap aluminum. Now this gauge is from Harbor Freight, and it's the air compressor gauge. It's got this big knob in the front where you turn it to regulate the pressure. And I got a piece of aluminum in the front. It's just sitting in there loosely right now. But that's going to attach to the front of this round piece, this knob. And then I can, because when this is installed, I can use this to regulate the amount of pressure for the brake. Now what we're looking for is somewhere between 40 and 60 pounds. And this other hole over here is for this. So rather than make up a fancy mount, I just made a through hole through here for the top of this. Then there's 4 bolts that I just drilled and tapped right in the top of that. You see where those, they put little circles in there, little holes to attach it to things. But I just drilled right into those 4 holes. And just drilled in there, and the hole is actually the clearance for the tap. So I just put 4 bolts in there and the 4 holes here, and it just mounts in there. Nothing fancy. Didn't want to make a bunch of special brackets or anything. But this is going to kind of mount in there. It's going to fit something like that. In the corner there. Now this hole here it was already in that piece of the material, and like this hole and this hole, they were already there. Like I said, it was just a piece of scrap. I just cut it on a bandsaw, didn't mill it, just drilled a couple holes in it, mounted my gauge. And like I said, I wanted to originally install this inside of here, but it just doesn't physically fit. So I was going to mount it in the back. So then I decided to mount it in the front, because in the back you have the hinge, and the hinge would be covering it and probably hitting it, and a lot of things that you really don't want going on. Now this gauge is just mounted with a spring. Now I didn't make a fancy mount for this. When I took it apart, I found this spring, so when I put it back together, the spring is hitting against the bottom of this and hitting against the top of that, and that's what's putting tension on it and just kind of holding it in place. I mean, it's free to rotate. I mean, it'll rotate, and it'll actually push up and down a little bit, but the gauge mounts flush on top. And it works. So I wanted to I also put this thing on the back here. It's kind of a horse-shaped thing. Now what that does is when you put the wires in here, it keeps it from cutting the wires. So it kind of holds the wires, and when I made this cutout, I made sure that the stainless piece was well beyond the edge of the black, so that there was no knife edges on there. And I could have just made it straight up and down, but I put a little shape on there just to kind of make it a little fancy. So then there's a cutout at the top, so when the lid closes, it's actually capturing the wires inside there. But since I can't put this inside of here, like I said, I had to mount it on the front. So I made this bracket, and I made this bracket. Now this captures it. Now you see it's like a T shape. And on the end over here, there's a radius. And this piece here is just a straight cut with a U shape. This is just bolted on in two places. I didn't want to make it all one piece. There was no point in making it one piece. But this U-shaped piece back here, I got a piece here. See that long piece sticking out? That's a piece of stock. Then I turn the front of it, put a 1024 thread on it. That's what these threads are, 1024. and it just goes into the plastic, and this piece sticks out and acts like a little catch for that little U shape. That helps hold it in place. So the front of this, like I said, is a T shape. Now on this hook thing I made before, I added this slot on the bottom for this, to hold this here. So how that works is, I take this like this, and this round piece sits in there and slides down. This piece over here, it just goes in there and captures that. Then when this hits the bottom here, this hits the bottom here, and that just holds it in place. It just comes down and captures it. So then when you're done, you take your wires, put them inside, fit them in there, fit them in there. And then you can close the lid and transport this. There's a handle on top of the lid. It'll probably make a little more sense once I get it together, but I wanted to show it while it was still apart so that you could see what's inside of it. Now this valve that I got from Harbor Freight, in order to get that gauge off, that thing was Loctited on there. I don't know what they put on there. I didn't even know if I was going to get that off. That thing, I had to put that in a vise, and it was on there really, really tight. I can take that apart. Now here's the part I drilled out for that piece of aluminum here. I'm going to drill and tap 4 holes in there. Now this back of this gauge is 2 holes. These 2 screw holes right here on top. They're lower than this piece on the back, so I had to countersink 2 holes on here. I just used a ball end mill. I made a square here to hold it, keep it from rotating. I mean, it wasn't real sophisticated stuff. Just get it close and hit it with a file. But these, so you can't really put screws from the outside to the inside, but there's enough room in here inside this cap where you can put screws from the inside out. So I put 4 holes in there. I'm going to mount the screws inside this cap going outward into this aluminum piece, because there's plenty of room for the head of the bolt, because the only thing in here is this spring, and there's a lot of room in there. You see the room, see there's like a hollow spot between the spring and the outside the wall, so there's enough room for the head of the bolt. So I'm going to reverse the bolt and have it coming from the inside out, and then screw onto this aluminum piece, and then I'm going to put a handle on the outside somewhere. I don't know, I haven't figured out what kind of handle I'm going to put on it yet. I might just drill a hole and put a little bar through it, because you're not going to use that much. I mean, once you get it set, you really don't have to adjust it anymore. But this hole down on the bottom, that's going to be for the power coming out of the power supply going into the Arduino. And then these 2 holes are going to be for grommets. Going to pass the 1 air line through here for the cooling of this unit here, and the other air line will power the brake unit, which is what the regulator is for, anywhere from 40 to 60 pounds. And that, until I get it together, that's pretty much it with the, I don't know what you want to call it, power box or storage box or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, that's about it. Okay, bye.